Welcome back to the Deep Dive, everybody. Today we're going on a wild ride. We're going to be looking at some really huge timescales, like really huge. Like, the kind you find in Hindu cosmology?
Oh, yeah.
Stuff like Yugas,
Yep.
Manvantaras, Kalpas. We're talking billions of years.
Yeah.
Kind of makes you wonder, how does a specific point in time, like when this amazing astronomer Aryabhata lived, fit into such a massive cosmic clock?
It really does. I mean, just think about it for a second. They were not only observing and charting the heavens, they were also trying to locate their findings within this giant, almost incomprehensible time framework. That blows my mind.
Me too. And at the heart of our deep dive today, we've got Aryabhata. He's like a total legend in astronomy, right?
Absolutely.
We're going to zero in on his masterpiece, the Daśagītikā. Specifically, verse 5.
Oh, juicy.
Now, I'm sure you already know that Aryabhata established this critical epoch, a starting point for all his astronomical calculations.
Right.
But, verse 5.
What about it?
It takes us to a whole new dimension.
Sure. Okay, I'm intrigued. Spill the beans. What's so special about this verse?
Well, for me, what's super cool is that verse 5 acts as this, vital connection, It connects Aryabhata's precise mathematical system to these grand cyclical concepts of time. It doesn't just tell us when his system starts. It's like it defines its position within the very lifespan of the cosmos itself, at least how they understood it back then.
I see. So it's more than just a starting point. It's about situating his work within this grander cosmological narrative.
Exactly. Our mission today is to crack the code of this pivotal verse, to really grasp the mind-boggling scale and context of his work.
Let's do it.
Okay, so close your eyes for a sec and imagine India around 499 CE. We're in Kusamapura, this vibrant intellectual hub. Aryabhata's hard at work, trying to map out the mathematical order of the universe. But here's the thing. He wasn't working in a vacuum.
Right.
The understanding of these massive cycles of time, Yugas, Manvantaras, Kalpas, it was like baked into the intellectual landscape.
That's so important to keep in mind, that these weren't just abstract philosophical notions, They were fundamental to how they understood everything, including the celestial realm.
Right. So Aryabhata's attempt to mesh his astronomical findings with these time cycles wasn't some random academic exercise. It was about creating a complete, unified picture of the cosmos.
Precisely. And that's where verse 5 of the Daśagītikā comes in. It's where he lays out this whole integration. But to really understand it, we have to break down this cosmic hierarchy he describes, layer by layer.
Right. And he does this using this super clever alphabetical coding system to define these interconnected cycles of time.
Layers upon layers of time. It's like a cosmic onion.
Yeah. So the basic unit in this hierarchy, as we know from his earlier work, is the Mahayuga.
Right, the Mahayuga.
This is a cycle of 4,320,000 years.
A long time.
It's made up of 4 different yugas, the Krita, Trita, Dvapara, and Kali. While each yuga has its own characteristics and duration, the Mahayuga is like the fundamental building block for these larger periods.
It's the foundation.
Exactly. So we start with this 4.32 million year Mahayuga. Then verse 5 brings us to the Manvantara, which means era of a Manu.
A Manu.
Yeah, it's like a primordial figure, kind of like a lawgiver in Hindu cosmology. Aryabhata uses a special code to tell us how long a Manvantara lasts. The syllables śkha.
Śkha.
Yeah. He uses this cool system called katapayati, where each syllable represents a number. In this case, śkha stands for 70 and ka stands for 2.
I see.
Put them together. Śkha equals 72.
Got it.
So according to Aryabhata, 1 Manvantara equals 72 Mahayugas.
Wow. So we're talking about 72 times 4.32 million years.
Do the math and it's mind-blowing. Over 311 million years for just 1 Manvantara.
That's almost impossible to even imagine.
Right. And hold on, it gets even crazier. This Manvantara is just a part of an even bigger cycle, the Kalpa.
The Kalpa.
Yep. It's often called a day of Brahma, representing a full cycle of creation and destruction in some traditions. Aryabhata uses another code for this one, Da.
That Da.
Same Katapayati system. Da is 10 and Ha is 4, making Da equal to 14.
So 1 Kalpa is 14 Manvantaras.
Exactly. Now, if you plug that back into the bigger picture, we get 14 Manvantaras multiplied by 72 Mahayugas per Manvantara.
Okay.
That means a Kalpa, according to Aryabhata, is a whopping 1,008 Mahayugas. That's about 4.35 billion years.
Wow. That's actually pretty close to the scientific estimate for the age of our planet.
Pretty mind-blowing, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Aryabhata's calculations don't perfectly match up with what you find in some other traditional tests.
Oh, how so?
Some sources say a Manvantara is 71 Mahayugas. which would make a Kalpa around 1,000 Mahayugas. So why the difference?
Interesting question. It seems like while Aryabhata was working within this existing cosmological framework, his choice of 72 and 14 was probably driven by his desire to keep things consistent within his own astronomical system. He wasn't just blindly copying traditional numbers. He was integrating them in a way that supported his calculations of planetary motions and cycles.
So he was kind of fine-tuning things to make his model work.
Exactly. It shows how much emphasis he placed on creating a mathematically sound and internally consistent system.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've got this massive structure. Mahayugas make up Manvantaras, which make up a Kalpa, stretching over billions of years. Now, here's the big reveal, the part that blew my mind. Verse 5 tells us exactly where Aryabhata's starting point, that Lanka Dawn epoch we talked about earlier, remember? It marks the beginning of the current Kali Yuga in 3102 BCE, according to the sources you shared, fits into this insane timeline. It tells us how much time had already passed since the very start of the current Kalpa.
So he's basically pinpointing his now on this vast cosmic map.
Yeah, and he does it with incredible detail. First, he says 6 complete Manvantaras had already happened. A Kalpa has 14 Manvantaras, so we're in the 7th one right now.
7th Manvantara, got it.
And within this Manvantara, 27 Mahayugas had already passed. He uses his code again here, chnā. Chnā is 7 and nā is 20, totaling 27. That's 27 full cycles of 4.32 million years. It's amazing how this coding system not only allowed him to pack in numbers, but also maybe helped with memorizing these complex calculations.
It's like a mnemonic device. Pretty clever.
Right, and it gets even more precise. Within the current Mahayuga, the 28th of this Manvantara, Aryabhata says 3 Yuga quarters had already passed. He uses the code kalem, which represents the number 3.
3 out of the 4 yugas in a Mahayuga.
Exactly. The Krita, Treta, and Dwapara. The Kali Yuga is the 4th and final one in this Mahayuga.
Okay, so let's do the math. We've got 6 full Manvantaras, each being 72 Mahayugas. That's 6 times 72, which equals 432 Mahayugas.
Right. Then we add the 27 full Mahayugas that have passed within the current Manvantara. That gives us a total of 459 complete Mahayugas since the beginning of the Kalpa.
Plus, we need to account for the part of the current Mahayuga that's already gone by. Aryabhata says 3 Yuga quarters have elapsed, meaning 3/4 of a Mahayuga. That's 3/4 times 4,320,000 years, which is 3,240,000 years.
Exactly. So to get the total elapsed time from the start of the Kalpa to the beginning of the Kali Yuga, Aryabhata's epoch, we take those 459 full Mahayugas, multiply by the length of a Mahayuga, 4,320,000 years, and add the 3,240,000 years from the elapsed Yuga quarters.
All right.
The grand total. A mind-boggling 1,986,120,000 years. Almost 2 billion years. Think about that for a minute.
Wow. It's hard to even comprehend.
I know, right? This isn't just some big number. Aryabhata was trying to place his work within this almost unimaginably long cosmic history. He wasn't just picking a random starting point. He was anchoring it within this meticulously calculated, super long history of the cosmos.
It's incredible. In the 5th century CE, he's grounding his calculations in a timeline that stretches back almost 2 billion years. It speaks to the sophistication of their cosmological understanding.
Absolutely. And there's another fascinating detail in this verse. It mentions Gudavasaka Faratat Purvam, meaning from the Thursday before the Farata War.
The Farata War. That's interesting.
I know. It gets a bit tricky here. Remember how verse 4 mentioned Wednesday in relation to his epoch? And the date, 3102 BCE, most likely falls on a Friday. Now we have a Thursday reference thrown in.
Yeah, it seems like a bit of a contradiction, especially given how precise he is everywhere else.
Exactly. And the sources I found offer different interpretations. Some say it's about different methods for calculating planetary positions, or maybe it's about the symbolic associations of certain days with celestial bodies. There's even a chance that scribes who copied the text over the centuries might have introduced some variations. While these references to weekdays in the Farata War give us some cultural context, the core astronomical starting point remains anchored to 3102 BCE. Figuring out the exact meaning of those extra phrases is still a bit of a puzzle for scholars. It just goes to show you how challenging it can be to make sense of these different layers of information in ancient texts.
I see. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion. You never know what you might find.
Haha, exactly. But back to verse 5. Why is it so crucial for understanding Aryabhata's astronomy? It's clearly more than just a cool glimpse into ancient cosmology, right? What's the key takeaway for us?
Absolutely. Think of verse 5 as the bedrock, the foundation upon which Aryabhata built his entire astronomical system. It's like the operating system for a complex computer or the deepest level of understanding for his model of the cosmos. And there are several reasons why it's so important. First, it establishes the absolute zero point for his timeline at the very beginning of the current Kalpa. By painstakingly calculating the massive amount of time that had passed up to his epoch, he creates a consistent reference point for all his planetary calculations.
So knowing exactly where you are in this grand cycle is key to making more accurate and coherent system for predicting celestial events.
Precisely. And secondly, by placing his now within the immense cycle of the Kalpa, Aryabhata's system could potentially stay relevant and accurate across huge stretches of time, even spanning multiple Yuga cycles. It's like he was trying to future-proof his calculations within his understanding of the cosmos.
Pretty smart. And it also shows how he was bridging the gap between his mathematical innovations and the prevailing cultural understanding of the universe, right? He wasn't just presenting some abstract mathematical model. He was grounding it in familiar concepts like Kalpas and Manvantaras.
Right, he was integrating his groundbreaking astronomical insights with a worldview that people already understood.
Ah,
And that's something we see a lot in ancient thought, this interconnection of different areas of knowledge. It wasn't just about academics, it was about building a complete and unified understanding of reality.
yeah, makes sense. And what's really cool is that Aryabhata's quantified vision of cyclical time, as laid out in verse 5, had a huge and lasting impact.
Oh.
It influenced later Indian astronomical traditions, the Siddhantas, and even philosophical ideas about time and the cosmos for centuries. His detailed calculations provided a framework that resonated across cultures and shaped how people understood time and humanity's place in it.
Wow, so he wasn't just making cool calculations, he was actually influencing how people thought about the universe.
Exactly. So for you, the listener, here's the bottom line. Verse 5 is like the ultimate context for Aryabhata's work. It tells us that he wasn't just setting a starting date for his astronomical system. He was meticulously placing that date within a cosmic cycle that goes back almost 2 billion years.
It's mind-blowing to think about the ambition of these early thinkers. They weren't just looking at the sky, they were trying to understand their place in this vast and ancient cosmos.
And it makes you think, doesn't it? What does it mean to consider such immense timescales? How does understanding this ancient effort to place ourselves within billions of years change our own perception of time, history, and our fleeting existence in the grand scheme of things?
It's a perspective that definitely makes you step back and reevaluate things.
For sure. And speaking of exploring, in our next deep dive, we're switching gears from the vastness of time to the vastness of space. We'll delve into Aryabhata's measurements of our own planet and see how accurate they were. Join us then as we continue to uncover the wonders of ancient knowledge.
Sounds like fun, can't wait.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. See you next time.